met someone who deserves the day the way that you do. Joseph, it's time to get ready and the spotlight's shining down upon you. Joseph, so be back, oh, from I'm on my way, yeah, here it comes. And I'm delivering a wish to you, so get ready, from every peak and valley they're telling you to get ready, 'cause here it comes. It's on the way. It's a celebration across the nation.
Well, surprise, surprise, surprise. This is me, comedian George Wallace, the new Mr. Vegas. I'm here with you tonight. I'm famous. But let me tell you something. Your host tonight, Joseph Jaffe, he's not famous. He's not famous at all. But that's all we can do for you tonight. That's the best we can do. You know, Joseph is like Jon Stewart wannabe. He's like a Howard Stern wannabe. He is not famous, but he's your host, okay? Maybe he'll do good tonight. This is what you paid for. This is what you get. So, ladies and gentlemen, maybe you want to show him some love. Please welcome the not so famous Mr. Joseph Jaffe. Make some noise. Make some.
This is my best kind of show notes. We didn't touch one of them, not even one of them. I'm not sure which one is Paul Rudd and which one is Lane Green.
Final card here is the ultimate outcome.
Today is Take Your Dog to Work Day.
Oh, like Scooby-Doo.
Without further ado, his debut.
Sweet Caroline.
Everybody say hello to Sammy. Is that not good?
I'm just pausing so that you just are at the front of your screen.
I'm so enormously flattered.
Branding is not a bad blind date.
I'm gonna have to take a picture of this.
No, this is agape. This is love.
I really enjoyed this. You did do your homework. You asked great questions.
I'm flattered. Thank you. You just made my day.
Look at you! You are insane.
How did I do that?
You're
How
insane.
did I do that?
You're insane.
Man, it has been a minute. It has been a while. It is good to be back. I'm going to just have to adjust my perspective. How about that? Trying to get the top row of the shelves in. I've just returned from South Africa and the United Kingdom. This is a trip that was meant to happen before my mother passed away, and it happened. It got a little bit rescheduled. It's been a roller coaster. 3 trips to South Africa in, I don't know, about since the end of December. And I'm not joking when I tell you that the best sleep that I've had since January 18th has been sitting upright on a plane. 9 hours, 9.5 hours, and 8.5 hours on various trips between London and Cape Town and Newark Airport. For some reason, that Tylenol PM works wonders. Okay, 3 double scotches on the rocks helps as well, but still, you know, best sleep ever in the vertical Dracula position, if you will. But I'm glad to be back. We will find out if I've forgotten anything along the way. I'm feeling a little bit nervous, a little bit out of sorts. It's amazing when you have routine in your life, when you have these atomic habits, when you're used to traveling, for example, it becomes almost robotic, it becomes almost rote. And then the minute that you kind of get out of your routine, the next thing you know, you show up in, I don't know, in Lexington, Kentucky without underwear. But it's okay, because you can always ask my guest today, Jeremy Delk, to loan you some. You did not expect that, did you? I also, you know, I have to tell you that Jeremy's producer was getting his wonderful set in order, and I'm busy looking at the photo not the photo, at the human, thinking, I think I've messed up. I think I have the wrong guest, because I'm expecting a dashedly good-looking gentleman with a goatee, and there was this another man, not nearly as good-looking as my guest today, just kidding, just kidding. Well, we have a great show for you today. It's kind of nice to do it live, and it's just there's a thrill about being able to just have a conversation and know that there are no do-overs. Well, one of the things that I've been doing in the morning and really just loving it, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, in discord.gg/Alpha Collective, is we have what we call the Collective Cafe. We have the Collective Cafe. It is virtual coffee. It is the best way to start your weekday, Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 a.m. If you don't believe me, you can join. You can it's free. Just come to our Discord server. You don't have to talk. You won't be put on the spot. You can be on the treadmill. You can be taking the kids to school. You can be commuting. You could just be lying in bed. And we have just amazing conversations. On Monday, we manifest. On Tuesday, it's Thought Leadership Tuesday. On Wednesday, it's all about wellness Wednesday. On Thursday, we do live reads of books. Maybe we'll even do a live read one of these months on Jeremy's book, Without a Plan. And and then on Friday, it's No Agenda Friday, where, surprise, surprise, there is no agenda. We've also put it together into a podcast form. So if you can't make it Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, just subscribe to our podcast, The Collective Cafe, to go. And I generally make sure that that is up within 30 minutes of us ending our episode. So perhaps you just are too busy to actually tune in live, but you can be listening to it almost in real time. And I actually wanted to share this with you because today's seated soliloquy, it's just, it's something that I have to tell you. Just really, it was a conversation that just captured for me what is an amazing thought process happening in real time. And so I thought I would give you a little recap of it. And it is called My Concern Is. Now, I have to tell you, for me, the three words that I never want to hear in my entire life is my concern is, my concerns are. For me, this is like nails on a chalkboard. I am an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur, a standalone entrepreneur. I'm an ideas guy. I'm a creative type. I dream about possibilities. I imagine the future. If you can dream it, you can do it. This is who I am. And some of my ideas are half-baked. Some of them are quarter-baked. They're not always good ideas. Maybe most of them are awful ideas, but I actually believe in allowing an idea to be born, a spark, a seed to be planted, pivots, shifts, etc. You never know what might sprout up. You never know that even that bad idea might be able to just give rise to an incredible idea that could change the world. And so I typically, verbal diarrhea, I just spew my ideas into the ether. And when a client or a prospect or somebody else, the first words out of their mouth are my concerns are, my concern is, I think, why would you not do the opposite? Why would you not actually just turn around and say, here's what I like about that idea. Here's what I think is really awesome. Now I have some questions and maybe we can address them. So for me, this was just my biggest pet peeve, that the first thing out of your mouth would be negative, pessimistic, criticism, critical. I don't even care if it's constructive criticism. I don't want to hear it. And then during this particular episode, which again you can listen to, it was inspirational to me, was I've actually came full circle and I said, today, my concern is, my concerns are the three words I want to hear. They're my three best words, not my three worst words. And I'll tell you why. Because your concerns is what I would call your corporate spidey sense. This is what makes you uncomfortable. This is what immediately you focus on. And so that is where the magic happens. That's where you need to dig. That is the fertile ground to be able to excavate and start to plant and seed and fertilize and build upon. So if your concern is, and we started this actually talking about a corporate asking for a friend, a corporate wanting to hire an entrepreneur and feeling that they might not fit in. My concern is that this entrepreneur would not fit in, that this entrepreneur would be too rogue or independent to fit in. But what if the weakness was the strength? Not turn the weakness into a strength, but what if the weakness was the strength, to quote my good friend David Rendell, the giant freak in pink? What if that entrepreneur could actually become the idea virus, unleashing that idea virus that actually creates a whole new culture in that corporation, a culture of risk-taking, a culture of entrepreneurial thinking, a culture of being able to not be afraid to take a risk, to pivot, to try something new. That's the kind of TLDR, too long didn't read summary of yesterday's Collective Cafe. And I really, really invite you in to our little virtual coffee. Come on in, the water's fine. Well, now it's time to enjoy the waters of Jeremy Delk. And, you know, I actually wanted to, I want you to sit back. I want you to relax. And I want you to just hear a little bit of a story, not a memoir, but that memoir is actually his book. But allow me to tell you the story of Jeremy. Born and raised in a small town and from a blue-collar household, his parents worked for the post office. However, Jeremy always held much bigger dreams. He longed to experience the world outside his small hometown of Bardstown, Kentucky. He jumped into entrepreneurial ventures with the naivete of a child and the tenacity of a tycoon. He started the day trading part of his life at the age of 16, learning and failing with each trade. It is this process of adapting through failures that is paramount to his success in business. Now, after high school, he attended college in Rhode Island, neither a road nor an island discuss, under a business and marketing scholarship. However, he spent most of his class time using his Palm Pilot, this dates him a little bit, to day trade. By the age of 19, he earned $30,000 to $50,000 a day as a day trader from the desk of his college classroom. He felt invincible. But as quickly as the money came, it vanished. After amassing almost $2 million in his early 20s as a day trader, it took him only 4 days to lose it all. The tech bubble has a way of making people go broke pretty quickly. Hello, Web3. To make ends meet, he began renting apartments, earning commissions on the sale. As luck would have it, one of the people was a newly relocated executive at Fidelity in Boston. His knowledge and skill as a day trader would help him land a job as one of the youngest brokers at Fidelity Trading Institutional Equities in Boston and later in New York. He was earning great money, but it didn't fulfill the entrepreneurial spark within him, so he decided to go out on his own. Delk Enterprises has grown from making $6,000 in its first year in business to a diversified VC fund that has built and exited investments in both private and public transactions. Today, more than 20 years later, Delk Enterprises has holdings in biotech and healthcare, consumer brands, technology, building materials, and real estate development. Jeremy now focuses on investing and advising entrepreneurs through speaking. His upcoming book shares, I think his book is out now, shares his reality of the good, bad, and ugly of entrepreneurship. It serves as a not so subtle reminder of fundamental principles he's learned through his journey. While great times don't last forever, neither do the truly bad ones. Mr. Jeremy Delk, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I don't know what else I can say. You've covered my entire life. You've got me there.
So we should just end the show.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism.
All right, I'm just kidding. You get a sense of the show right now in the first minute or two. Now, I read somewhere, and I think this was you, that you also had certain fortuitous introductions to a thing called Bitcoin.
No, it wasn't me. Well, I mean, I don't think it's public. I think it's like a rite of passage that everyone needs to be involved in a Ponzi scheme. So my only real crypto experience was in a deal. I'm in a bunch of different masterminds, and one of these is if you're a digital marketing guy, Ryan Dice, Perry Belcher, those guys, called War Room. They're the ex-digital marketer guys, biggest digital marketing conference in the country. So there's like 50, 60 of us, and we're out in Beverly Hills or something. And this was like, Bitcoin was maybe like 10 grand at the time. So it was up. This is probably 4 or 5 years ago. And there's this new fund, these guys, ex-Wall Street, and I was on Wall Street, and I don't have any investments other than like 529 plans for my kids. And it was one of these things that was just like so ostentatious that was like, there's no way. And I threw, of course, I invested. I put $150,000 into it, and you would get these daily updates of what was coming in, and they were arbitraging several different coins and what have you. But it was very cloak and daggery a little bit. And I would just openly say, like, yeah, no, listen, it's either going to be the greatest thing ever, or it's a fucking Ponzi scheme. And I was at War Room for our mastermind. We were down in Cabo, and it was like, because you got the time difference, right? So it was we were at a cocktail hour. So it was later at night, because this happened in Europe, and we're having a mixer, and then Bloomberg, you get all these pings, and it was fucking, the derivative was BitConnect. So I was right and ripped up 150 grand in Bitcoin that way, which was fun. But I don't think it's public information I brag or share about, but that's all I've really done in crypto. I've got some NFTs and some things, but yeah, it's wild, wild west still, and has been for a while.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because it's interesting. I don't know if you can see, like right here, he sits on my shoulder, is the pets.com sock puppet. Okay. And I call it now Groundhog Day in the metaverse.
Right.
We saw the bubble boom, the bubble burst. We saw the phoenix rising from the ashes. We had people that lost their shirts on digital. I remember working from a shared workspace, and I remember a day when Yahoo rose $65 or $70 in a single day. Yeah. And there is this idea that it's almost a rite of passage again to get burnt. It's almost exceptionally lucky to strike gold almost by fluke. We hear the stories about the people that came in and bought Bitcoin really early, but I wonder how much of a similarity is there between the times we're living in right now and the times then. 4 days where you lost it all before you rebuilt it. How much of this is the same, and how much of it is completely different?
I think there's a ton of similarities, and it's all just a lot worse now. So a couple of things. And humans are like pretty adaptive and smart, but we don't like history, right? And history does have has a good way of repeating itself, like tulip mania, if you know about that. Just the idea of these, what rage and pump volume and influence can do. But so what happened in the late 90s when I was trading and making a ton of money? I was in Qualcomm, JDS Uniphase, but a couple of things happened. One, these thing called PE ratios, right? Price to earning ratio. They just didn't matter anymore, right? Because analysts told you they didn't matter, right? Because, hey, well, this is about future growth and market share and wild, wild west and, what it could be, right? So that was the first level of social acceptance. Like, all right, well, that's interesting. Then trading became more accessible, right? As you mentioned, I was trading on a Palm Pilot. So you had Ameritrade. So you had discount brokerages, early days of discount brokerages. And you had, so it was cheaper to invest. You didn't have to go to your grandpa's broker and get told what to do, right? You had access to make things. And then the internet was out there with forums and, trading rooms. And, but you still had some, parameters. You could trade penny stocks, but most of them are, NYSE and NASDAQ. So that was a huge level of influx, mainly in the US. And, the bubble burst, right? Because you started throwing out disciplines going through and, pet.com and everything.com kind of blew up. What happened here in crypto is very similar, but just like magnitudes of, 10 times worse. Why? Well, there's no corporate governance, right? Sam Friedman, you've got all these other things. There's no, even though SEC is still the SEC, whatever they are, but they're not good at what they do either. But there's not even any level of very little level of regulatory compliance or open the Komodo. I mean, with Sam Friedman saying they were running off of QuickBooks, right? It's crazy. So you have no corporate governance. The ability to transact right now is even easier, right? Because you could have, illicit money, right? You're not going to have, a guy, a drug dealer from Russia going through and buying, Ford stock, right? So now the level of, legit money and illicit money that's trading. So it's just, you have a whole bigger, much larger pool of cash and equivalents to trade. You've got anonymity, and now you've got to add it at a global scale, right? So it's just a recipe for, like, 99 and 2000s was a recipe for disaster. This was just catastrophic. And when, and I think most of them have kind of, fallen over. I think the underlying premise of crypto and the blockchain has a ton of merit, and there's going to be tons of use cases for that. But, all these coins are just, it's very much influencer based, pumped up and up, and look at how many influencers have gotten in trouble from it. So I think it's a lot of similarities. And just worse with the things of more inventory, more accessibility, no regulatory compliance. Everyone like, oh, we don't like regulation. That's bullshit. You do like regulation to a degree because it has some checks and balances, right?
Yeah. Until you actually have to call customer service, and people say there is no customer service. Right. The same like centralization. But Jeremy, you said something that I thought was really. By the way, do you like the background of tulips?
I like it.
Just happen to have handy. But you said something that actually I think is a really interesting lesson, which is sometimes the barriers to entry should be high or higher.
Yeah.
Sometimes, we always spoke and we looked at digital, right? And we said it's leveling and social. We looked at it as leveling the playing fields, that David could take on Goliath. But sometimes if it's too easy to get involved, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. And I think that's a really, really powerful insight.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I jokingly, and I'm not trying to, it was a lot of money, losing this 150,000 in that thing, but I put it in there with the expectation that it's likely gonna fucking go away, right? Like if it doesn't, and I'm surprised, it's a lottery. It's a great win. But I went in there consciously as a I don't even want to say a disciplined investor, but as an aware investor of like, you cannot expect or have any feasibility to get that level of return. Usually your multiple of return is congruent with the multiple of risk. If you can 10x something, you are 10 times likely to lose it as well. And that's what people trade. Like when you hear safety and high multiples, scam, right? That just doesn't happen, right? There's a congruency of, putting your money in a CD, very low risk, very low return, right? So it's those levers usually have to balance. And as an investor, I knew what I was hearing was kind of preposterous, but hey, I've seen crazy things happen. It's worth a punt. That's why I didn't put everything into it. I took a bet and, I lost. So I went in there. So that's for me as an accredited investor, whatever you want to kind of give that name. The problem is you've got all these micro influencers and people going through and hitting us on social. Now the connectivity, while it's so good, it's scary because anyone can be a fucking guru, right? I mean, you say you're not famous, Joe, but a couple Instagram, tweets or Instagram posts and a few tweets, and you get viral and you're someone of importance, right? And that's what's scary, right? Is that what's their credibility? So yeah, I can't agree more.
Yeah, I say I'm not famous, but inside my heart, I know I'm not famous. No, but Jeremy, I think this is again another fantastic insight. When you've had 440 different guests on the show, it's like I'm like Augustus Gloop in the Chocolate Factory when I hear things I've never heard before. But I think that's a really good point, which is if you want to, and if you believe, and if you can, and if you have 10x, you are just as likely to divide by 10 or 10 divide or whatever what that is. And I think that's a very, it may sound obvious, but it isn't. It isn't. If you want to catch the next big fish, the next, I don't know, Doge coin, you can also like basically, nose dive, into the ground, into Bolivian, as Mike Tyson would say.
Right. Yeah. It's very basic principle, but no one wants to see that. No one wants to see that. They always think, oh, wow, what am I going to do with the money when I hit it? I mean, they still sell lottery tickets every single fucking day. And they're not selling on the probability that they don't win. They're selling on the probability that they do win. Right.
I mean, listen, I'm still buying them. And I can't even crack the Powerball number as well. So, but this does talk about, it does talk about hope. It does talk about hope. It does talk about faith. It does talk about the fact that we are desperately, I mean, what is it to be an entrepreneur? Because we are masochists. We are fools. We are dreamers. There is truly the good, bad, and ugly of being an entrepreneur. And yet we can't help ourselves. The example that I gave in the soliloquy about the concern is that we're damaged goods. The corporate doesn't even want to hire us because they assume that we are not grounded, not realistic, not able to fit into this, this bureaucratic red tape monolith stumbling towards its own demise. So why do we do it?
Yeah, fuck it. I don't know, but I think you've heard me on.
I know either.
You've heard me as well, but I say that we're masochists all the time. So it's funny that you use the same word because we are, right? And I think I get some criticism from this. I love some veggie TV every now and again with the kids, and ABC Shark Tank, and I've been in groups with Damon John and Cuban and met once. Those guys. I think it's a really cool idea, and it's great. Makes for great TV. I think they've done at least this country and probably other countries, because there's Shark Tanks everywhere now, a disservice because it's glamorized. This is the fucking last thing that's glamorous, man. Like, so you create everyone that had this entrepreneur component, but it's a lonely, painstaking, crazy environment that you wouldn't subject yourself to it unless you're just kind of sick. I'm sick. I love this shit, right? I love the idea of creating and going through and failing. I mean, the subtitle of my book is, a memoir of unbound action, which I think that's all it takes to be successful, is action forward, and failing my way to success. That's the idea. And I really celebrate the failure piece of it because that's where I know the learning happens. So many people are just deathly scared of being a failure or failing. And you mentioned Tyson, right? I mean, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. You have to just have the mindset that you like it, because otherwise, why would you do it, right? And I think there's something innate. That's why I was with corporate. I did get hired, right? I was the youngest institutional equity trader at Fidelity history, right? And probably still was. I mean, you got to be 18 at least to get your license, and I was 20. So I knew and blessed to realize this early on that I wasn't satisfied, and I had the guts to do it. And I probably only got that guts because I blew up $2 million and I was still alive 2 years later. So most people aren't. Most people don't have the guts because it's scary, right? It's scary to go out, live in Manhattan, right? You live in, if you said Greenwich, I think, but I lived in Union Square, Chelsea, 16th and 6th Avenue. My fucking rent was $6,000 a month, and I made business $6,000. So like, no fucking. And when I told my mom, who you mentioned, my mom and stepdad were post office, I'm making more money at 21 than they made combined in Kentucky. And I'm like, yeah, Mom, resigned today. I'm starting my own company, which is Delk Enterprises, which is still there. But they're like, are you on drugs? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, are you fucking like, are you out of your mind? Like, you just pulled yourself out of blowing up $2 million, and now you've got stability, and you're doing it. And yeah, because me, I really look at corporate as where you go to die, right? You know, you literally just, and because I would start. I don't sound like I'm from Kentucky. I changed my dialect in the way I speak. I've got some friends from Durban, South Africa. I mentioned that, so I'll start talking like a fucking essay here soon.
Durbs.
But yeah. But I can. But I did that because I would just like, hey, Joe, I can take water into wine. What do you think? And like, no, kid, fucking shut up. Just keep your head down. So I was like, maybe my ideas are good because I knew some of my ideas were good. Not all of them, but some of them were good. But maybe I just sound like a fucking hillbilly, so they won't listen to me, right? I mean, that's the level of it. And what I realize is that, no, man, you're this big company, you're safe, you're making a ton of money. Fucking hold on, bro. Take the perks and go. And look, I got a lot of friends that did that. They're still in New York, still on Wall Street, and they don't work, right? They play golf 4 days a week, and they love it. That's a good life for them. I would rather fucking kill myself, I think. That's a little extreme, but I'm kind of extreme.
Yeah, I mean, well, what is being alive, and what is being a walking dead, if you will. This idea, because the thing is, to me, the thing about that sets us apart, the entrepreneur versus the corporate executive, is the journey versus the destination. We're all about the journey. The destination almost feels anticlimactic. It almost feels and we just need to do it again. It's the journey. It's the challenge.
Yeah, and you've got to recognize that as an entrepreneur, like where you are in your stages. But I mean, I sold a business like probably 6 months too late because it cost me a ton of money with some regulatory stuff. But I've now, in my later years in life, I can consciously see myself breaking shit. Right when I actually build a company, so I take the idea. There's like different evolutions. Like, here's a concept. Let's put because it's like early stage startups, why I'm a junkie for them. And that's why I invest in so many and I help and consult all that. It's so much fun because it's the purest level of creation out there, other than maybe childbirth. I mean, it's actually just so pure. Ideas are flowing. What's it going to be? The excitement. And then you build it. Then, okay. And then I basically sit back. I let some guys kind of figure out how to, make it, get it running. I can come in with some process stuff. Then I scale the wheels off of it until it nearly fucking breaks. But once it gets to a real business, 50, 100 employees, whatever, if I don't exit that pretty quickly, I will fucking implode it. Just because like incremental growth to me is also where you go to die, right? Like I can't help you there. You need to bring in the adults to do that. Otherwise I'll just start breaking shit just to kind of go in and fix it. Right. So I think being conscious in what part of the process and the journey you like is very important. And because that's why a lot of PE guys buy startups, because they let the kids go away and bring the adults in to kind of, run it afterwards, which is great. That's part of the evolution. It gives you the cash to go back and play in the sandbox again and come up with some new ideas.
I also like that clarification, which is it's not the entire journey; it's parts of the journey.
Yeah,
and you got to find your part. It's the same like when you go to a VC, they might be like, "This is the greatest idea I've ever heard in my life," but we invest in biotech, and this is consumer facing. This is DTC,
right?
And so it's like picking a lane, staying in the lane, right? But also understanding what part of that journey, right, is the scenic route, is the super highway. I mean, bastardizing a metaphor, but I think that's important because the journey itself, it seems like, I mean, first of all, I've never birthed a child, but I have birthed 5 books. And I was once told publishing a book.
You are a masochist. You are. I did one. I'm fucking like it's. Yeah.
It is bad. It is painful, and it's almost it's actually like drinking excessively. You've just had your stomach pumped. You're recovering in hospital, and you're like, I'll never drink again until you do.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it because there's just something about it that By the way, this is the person who said they'd never write another book, and I've got book number 6 simmering in my belly right now. So that's what we do now. Jeremy, the book says says it's a memoir and a memoir. So I went and I read. I was like, what is a memoir? What is exactly is a memoir? And it is a historical account or biography written from personal knowledge or special sources. Example, in 1924, she published a short memoir of her husband, or it is an essay on a learned subject, an important memoir of what the hell? I don't know, carboniferous crustacea. So which one is it? Are we carnivorous, whatever, crustacea? Or is this a 1924 story about someone's husband? Which one is it?
Both, maybe, because so I wrote the book and it started out to be very much a business book. And, it was a recount of 20 years of how I've lived my life, 20 years of business, last 20 years in Delk Enterprises. And the biggest piece, because most entrepreneurs I coach and consult with, they're like, oh, I got the greatest idea. It's going to turn water into wine, but fucking, yeah, I've had it for 2 years. I've not done anything. So is really try to encourage like all the things I've built, businesses I've built, whether it's Inc. 500's fourth fastest healthcare company in the US, or the 24th fastest company, period, in the US in 2019, hundreds of employees. All of them started with just an idea. They all started with the simple component of a place on the horizon and action. And it's factual recounting of, the twists and turns that business and entrepreneurship is. And I really believe in wholeheartedly that you go without a plan, because plans don't ever work out exactly how you plan anyway, right? So you're also pre-programmed with less information, as opposed to like going out 6 months, hitting the fork in the road and like, all right, now based on new information that I didn't have 6 months ago, which way should I go? So that's what the book was. And then I wrote it and threw it fucking away because it felt a bit disingenuous. Because I was only telling the business parts of it, right? Which was great value. And those parts are still in the book, mind you, right? It's how I sold companies, took them public, took them private, deal, like all that stuff, tactical is in there. But I felt disingenuous because it's only half the story, because behind the man, the book, the business, these things behind you, there's personal life, right? There's real raw human emotions. We're all fucked up for different reasons for part of our journey. And especially in entrepreneurship, when you're, I've got business owners that I have partners in, whatever, but a lot of things I own 100% myself. So when you're the leader, the guy that's making sure payroll is made and all those things, it's really lonely sometimes, right? Because you have to be the stoic person of like, yeah, I'm going to get through it. So I wanted to share that part of it as well. So that's what made it more memoir-y, that I kind of weaved in both the, personal life, emotional component, and I got super vulnerable in it. And I'm glad I did, because the product now is so much better. The feedback that I get, it's not just from some, 20-year-old, 30-year-old, entrepreneur, guy or girl that wants to be hard charging and take over the world. I mean, I've got, stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home dads reading. I mean, the emotional connection component really, I think, has touched some people, which makes me more proud than business, which is funny, right? Because it just talks about, happiness and what your why is and why you're doing what you're is, because it's painful sometimes to look back, right? We always want to look forward. You can talk about not about the downside, but what can I make if I invest this or buy the lottery ticket? That's how humans condition themselves. Because a lot of times it's painful looking back, but you shouldn't dwell on the past, but you need to look at it, because that's the path that you've been on, and it shaped a lot of who you are today. And if not dealt with, sometimes it can really affect where you're going without your control. So I talk about all kinds of shit in there.
And obviously learning from the past as well, but specifically, there is that saying that you hear all the gurus and the life coaches say, which is, these are not the things, i.e. life, that happen to you. These are the things that happen for you.
Yeah.
And so this idea, I mean, I looked at it, and it absolutely connected with me. This concept of failing your way to success. Let's put that just to the side for 1 second. The pain, the masochism, we say. Can you train yourself to love pain? can you train yourself to not just endure it, but love pain, lean into the pain as opposed to run away from it?
I mean, I could be getting this wrong, and I'll give you my off the cuff answer, and maybe there's a deeper level, but I don't think you can, right? And I think just like you can't train yourself to be an entrepreneur, I don't think you can train yourself. Like I'm the way I am because I experienced, loss, right? Death of my father at a young age, so we've all have. I'm not special. We've all experienced it, but it's to your point, it happens to you or for you. I firmly believe retrospectively now I'm a genius. Hindsight's 2020, that a little more deeper than to and for you is I'm a firm believer that in life there is no such thing as a good thing or a bad thing. Life is just a series of events, right? It's then the emotions and actions that we apply to those events that will further dictate whether they were good or bad. And I've just seen that time and time, right? You've seen the person that just a fucking negative cunt that fucking just everything. Oh, the sky's falling. This is fucking horrible. And they track that stuff and they just make it a bad thing as opposed to like, well, that's interesting. Let me see how that's going to work out. So we do that to ourselves, not the thing or the event. But no, I don't think you would train yourself to it. I mean, I work hard and try to make a bunch of money because I was 7 years old. My dad died. My brother was 2. And I went from like a lot of stability to a young single mom who was fucked for a long time. Right. So I said, well, resources was one of the problems there. So it helps drive to give you a lot of motivation. Conversely, that loss of my dad made me go through the better part of my life actually not letting anyone in emotionally, because I fucking said, oh, well, cool. If I don't ever let anyone actually in, they can never hurt me, which is a really fucking shitty way to live. So like those are way too course corrections, right? Hard charging, successful, fucking money generating, producing guy versus an emotionally detached, probably miserable fuck, right? So you gotta balance them out, which is, again, going through 6 figures worth of fucking therapy and sitting on couches and dealing with it. That's part of this. And if you don't do it, it'll deal with you.
So if you don't deal with it, it will deal with you. Are you? I mean, I'm asking the question, but I think it's rhetorical when I ask, have you arrived? Or are you still a work in progress? How much do you still have to learn? How much failing is still left inside of you?
Oh, I think we're all a work in progress. I think the moment you stop learning or growing, you've kind of dead. But yeah, I mean, I'm far. You have to read the book. I mean, I think someone gave me like a book review of like very much, business motivational meets The Hangover and like a fucking wedding story. I mean, so like it's a roller coaster of all different pieces. I'm far more, I guess, emotionally intelligent and higher functioning now because I have this knowledge of what's important to me. And maybe that comes with age and kids as well. But really why you do things, understanding why we do things, how we react, what motivates us, right? If you're motivated and you think you get into business entrepreneurship for money, fucking dude, I've tried to buy it, man, with cars and watches and stuff. And I got all the things, but you got to deal with the other stuff for it because you cannot buy happiness. It helps. Resources are great, but you got to figure out why you do and what you do. And it's got to be making impact, making a difference, and just setting right with yourself. So I will definitely not say I'm all together, but I'm far less fractured than I was 10 years ago.
Well, you also, kudos to you for bringing it back to Mike Tyson with the Hangover reference. But I'll tell you something that you didn't know and that we unfortunately have in common. My father died tragically when I was 4, and my sister was 2, and my mother was pregnant, 6 months pregnant with my brother. So when I was reading, I didn't know all I read was that your dad had passed away tragically when you were young. We were about 3 years apart. It definitely has shaped us, I think, into these foul-mouthed renegades, mavericks, disruptors, entrepreneurs. Maybe that's the thing. How do you become an entrepreneur? You need a tragic parental death early on. And
that's a recipe.
I mean, the only thing we can do is laugh. It's better than crying. So, Jeremy, let's go back to this idea of failing your way to success. Because if you just look at it, it's a brilliantly worded subhead. But it almost implies, maybe it does imply, that you actually do need to fail in order to be successful. That success without failure is, I don't know, that's the Powerball, that's fluke, that's silver
It won't
spoon.
last. It won't last. So like there's studies of, how many people have won the lottery and then lost it all. Like there's like, that is like, I don't know the complete stats, so I don't want to misquote something, but more than 50%. I'll be safe to say that more than 50% of the people that win the lottery within 3 or 4 years don't have anything else left. So, me at 20 with, about $2 million was fucking stupid, man. Like you couldn't tell me anything. I'm making $30,000 to $50,000 day trading. A professor is probably making 45. Like, you think I could listen to him or her and learn anything? I'm shut off. I'm a genius. So, moreover, so if I didn't lose that 2 million, it would have been 20 million. I would have had kids. So the consequences, again, higher return, higher reward. The loss that I faced at 20, I could have just went home with my mom, right? But I worked it out. If I was later in life, it could have been my kids, wife, more people could have been affected negatively. But it teaches you the lessons of you're not always the smartest person in the room. And the moment you start thinking that, you're fucking really in trouble. You're not invincible. But the biggest thing it teaches you with failing is resiliency. It's that muscle memory, right? Of going through and riding a bike. We all started riding bikes and fucking ate shit. Remember you're getting your fucking, what is it? The fucking shoelace in the chain and just really we all did that. I remember trying to teach my son. I'm like, buddy, what are you scared of? Falling? He said, yeah. I'm like, all right, listen, you're going to fucking fall and it's going to hurt for a minute. But do you want to have and go through that versus you're going to finally go through life and at 20 with your kids, you're going to be able to go and ride bikes and have that enjoyment. So would you not sacrifice a short amount of pain, discomfort, and uncertainty for something that's going to be enjoyable? So you have to kind of go through and weigh that. And, that $2 million loss and me pulling myself out of it in a month or so, 100% gave me the courage to fucking resign from a nice 6-figure job in my early 20s in New York City. Because otherwise, what did I say to myself? Oh, well, what? I won't make as much money? Well, fuck. I'm not going to lose as much, right? So like, I can always go back and get that job. No 22-year-old's going to do that, right? Very few would do that quickly. They're going to wait till they're 25 and then they get to 25 like, oh, well, I don't know. And now I got a girlfriend and she wants a ring. And then we always make these excuses for ourselves. So I think failing, I don't know that it's, maybe I do. I think it's for you to be a true success. That's not a one-hit wonder. And I think that's what I talked about in the book. If I wrote about Jeremy Delk's company that he built and built really great and worked it for 15 years and was a success, I'm not a fucking entrepreneur. I got lucky and ran a business and whatever. I've done it 20 different times that have worked, 200 that have fucking failed, right? And I talk about all those as well. So you have to do it if you're really going to learn and get better. And that's how I help consulting now, right? I mean, I'm not that smart. I've just done enough that many times where if you've done this just a couple of times, you're like, well, I don't know what to do here. I'm like, well, oh yeah, well, this reminds me of this business or that reminds me of this. And why don't you try it? And you become prolific and that you're this prophet, but it's really kind of easy. You just apply similar, again, what did we learn earlier? History has a tendency to repeating itself, right?
I was thinking, was it prophylatic or prophylactic? But it's probably it's probably all connected. I have a friend who often uses the phrase "must be nice" when people see our success or others' success. They go, "Must be nice to be you." And I counterbalance that with this idea. Even when I look at the show, when I look at my not famous self, an overnight success. I started the show in 2020. I'm not going to say an overnight success 3 years in the making. I'm going to say an overnight success 52 years in the making. And people don't see the time. They don't see the failures. They don't see all of the rejection. They just see the, it must be nice to be you with your own show, with your own company, with your own venture fund, etc. Now, I want to take that and I want to just kind of triangulate that against this idea. I feel when people say, hey, listen, you need failure in order to be successful. You need to fail. Just those words that you just said. Yeah, I've had 20 successes, but I've had 200 fucking failures.
Right.
Somehow they don't believe it. They don't, there's a disconnect between the fact, wait a second, he's saying it's okay to fail. He's saying I need to fail. I need to be a lot more forgiving on myself. So you got these like forces, right? This overnight success, 50 years in the making, combined with all of the failure. But yet there's still a disconnect. How do we cross that chasm to help people realize when this is said, it's real, it's true, now go and do it?
Yeah, I mean, and just be prepared for it. So I have a digital media business, and I've got a friend of mine in town as a physician, and his son is wanting to build like a coffee mix company, and I think it's actually a really good idea. He's a super smart young man, and product's good, science very good. We're helping him with a great site, all these things, but when I had all those 200 plus failures, especially in digital marketing, I would put like parameters around that. I'd put $20,000 in there, $25,000, and that would be enough for me to incubate, start something, and go. And then the market would say if it's good or bad by customers and what have you. This guy wanted to do an opening order. It was like $80,000 in product. I'm like, man, this is how masochistic I am. I've convinced myself I'm just so smart. As a bald head, ugly dude, I could do a skincare line. And I've done 3 of them. And all 3 of them fucking, it didn't work. Great product, great packaging, great everything. And I was like, you just don't want to do that. And I was talking to my buddy who's the father and the mom. I was like, I can really show him. I said, do you want to know what $70,000 looks like? Because I can show you. It's fucking 2 pallets of cardboard in a fucking dumpster, right? It doesn't look cool like when it's there, and you can't do anything with it because the product's going to expire and what have you. But I said that to him, to that, because now the younger, he's going to put some of his money in but they're asking for dad to put some in as well. So I said, listen, I think 70 grand is too much for the opening order. You can't do it, but you have to do something, right? You've got to give him an opportunity to fail and to try it. That's more of the lesson. So I was in the retail window business before we blew that up into manufacturing in Europe. And this dude drove a BMW X5, inspired me to get my BMW X5, and super cool dude, good guy, good girlfriend. He's probably in his late 20s. He owned pizzerias, all this sort of stuff. And like we did a window job for him. It was like $80,000 in windows. This is 20 years ago. And he paid me in cash. And I was like, wow, dude, what are you doing, man? Like, how's it going? That's fucking pretty awesome. I don't know if I told this story in the book. And he's like, yeah, dude, you just got to go through. He's like, how old are you? I was 23. He's like, you don't deserve to have any money in the bank until you're at least 28. I'm like, fuck off, bro. That's kind of a dick thing to say, right? He's like, no. You don't get me wrong. You need to take every bet, right? You need to, every dollar you have, you just need to place on the fucking board, every bet. Because now 42, I can't do that shit. I still take fucking more than I probably should, but you don't have the ability to take that level of risk, because now you've got more consequence, because you're usually responsible for more people or more family and more friends. And that's the lesson, that you could get lucky. And if you do, you're still going to make mistakes. And if it's a success, you're still going to make mistakes. And eventually you're going to hit a hiccup. Or if you lose straight out the gate, okay, you're going to pick yourself back up or not. Either way, you learn something from it. And I think that's the overall lesson, is you just got to get out there and risk something. I'm not advocating everyone quit their job, 6-figure job, and go out and make 6 grand their first year. Maybe you shouldn't do that. That's what I needed to do to give me the edge, because I needed my back against the wall to perform. But if it's not that for you, figure out what it is. Figure out what it is that's just across that line that makes you uncomfortable, and set that as your watermark.
I had to whip out the old air horn because I really love this concept of take every bet. You shouldn't, you don't deserve, I mean, it's pretty damn profound. I actually wanted to start a new segment. I'm starting a new segment where I want to ask my guests, what do you know now that you didn't know then? What is one thing that I kind of feel like you just told me that at 28 you should have no money in the bloody bank. You should, but maybe you want to answer it a different way. What do you know now that you didn't know then?
The money in the bank from a business strategy piece, I think that's probably one of the better ones, right? And then just the idea that nothing lasts forever, like what you read in my bio, right? The great times nor the bad times always last forever, and the quicker you get that through is good. I think the other piece, I'll give you two little random pieces of advice that I really live by is, get comfortable with yourself. Like the way I fucking speak here, I speak at a boardroom in a public company, or I speak that this is who I am. Be your authentic self. Because otherwise it's just fucking shitty way to live life, right? Like if you're like, hello, I'm and not to just like push on your fucking South African accent, or but if I'm trying to just fucking be so
I don't talk like that. Hello, I'm from South Africa.
Well,
I'm not. Let's have some tea. Let's talk English. No.
I could bastardize it a bit there, but you know what I mean? Like it's a hard way to live, and like people are gonna fucking suss that out really quickly. So, if you can the quicker you can become comfortable with whom you are, you're gonna probably have less friends. That's a lesson. That's okay. Small circles are fucking good. You don't need everyone to like you, right? Mm-hmm. Because really they don't, right? People don't give a fuck about you. They close people do, but they care. Everyone cares about themselves, right? So if you're, what's going to happen if I fail? They don't care. It's going to be a talking point at a cocktail party for 5 minutes, and then you move on, right? So I think that's that. And then the other piece is, focus on, your true why, right? I think that's the other piece. I created businesses, and I still do it because that is my passion, but I was constantly always wanting to do more and go. And that's part of me that I was never comfortable to just be for a little bit. I needed to go through, and that was me. That was my escape. I did drugs and alcohol, all that stuff, but nothing like crazy. My escape was work and business, right? I was always just trying to hard charging because sometimes I didn't really want to face some of the other things that I needed to go through. So figure out what your why is, and what's important to you in this little game called life.
Yeah, I love that. And
last thing is, it changes. What was important to me at mid-20s was going to the Playboy Mansion and hanging out with Hef in the grotto and doing that was fucking cool. Not really with Hef in the grotto, but the girls. But like, that was important to me then. My wife would fucking completely like kill me if I did that shit now, right? And Hef's dead, so it's all good. I kind of tick the box. But like, it's okay to change. You're not going to be 25 like, hello, Buddhist, this is where I'm going to be. Be the best holistic, this is where I want to be at 25 that you can be. Reassess at 30, 35, 40, and then go through. It's going to be a journey, just like business, life's a journey.
Listen, you might be ugly, but you're not as ugly as your producer. I will say that. But
he's shaking his head. He's just crying. He's like, "Fuck! I've just gotten beaten up so bad."
Yeah, I'm just kidding. It was like I was just trying to do my job. I want to wind down with two quotes. Actually, I always find one quote for my guests, and this is the quote that I found for you. A goal without a plan is just a wish. In a way, like these quotes about plans and planning was almost kind of meant to be, I suppose, this idea of pushing back. I want to hear your point of view on whether you agree, whether you disagree, whether you can reconcile. This was, by the way, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that incorrectly, but sounded authentic. A goal without a plan is just a wish. What do you think about that? Bullshit or right on?
I'll say it's perspective. So I think it was, I should give a quote with the quote. I'm pretty sure it was Edison. I think it was Edison. Failing to plan is planning to fail. So it's very similar. Mm-hmm. So now you got to change it up really quickly. Can you do that? No, go without a plan. Just a wish. So how quickly can Joe?
Because I don't have your producer. If I had him, then I would have been able to. So you see, now we give him some props.
So I open up speeches sometimes with that quote, and I would say, hey, so what does Edison mean, right? What is he saying when he says that? And I look at it at a different way. That that it's our look at failure, right? Is planning to fail. Failing to plan is planning to fail, is not necessarily a bad thing. Because if you look at Edison and his success, I mean, he had a plan, but it wasn't really a plan. It was more of a vision and a mission to create a fucking light bulb. I don't know the numbers I used to, but he failed like thousands of times. Like if it was present day and Edison was your fucking neighbor, you call the cops and be like, I've got a fucking crazy person in my life. He can do the same shit. Like he would be fucking institutionalized, actually, right? He had a vision, but that's what it is. So in my book, I open up and I say, I don't want to, Benjamin Franklin, fucking, there you go. I knew it was Edison. Why did I say Edison? What did Franklin fucking do? Fucking telephone and light bulbs.
They're both dead. They can't defend themselves.
Dead. So they fucking planned on that. But I think that's that idea is more of just setting out the vision of where you wanting to go. I think that's more important, because tell me, and this is a live show, and I'll give anyone $10,000 right now if you can fucking share in the show notes, fucking 10 grand in wire instructions. Show me your business plan in 2020 where you modeled a global fucking pandemic. And I don't think we'll fucking see one. You can't plan for everything, right? And that's what kills entrepreneurs sometimes. It's this paralysis by analysis, and you don't ever get going. So, yeah. All that being said, fucking everything's a wish, right? Fucking finding a wife, finding a partner, it's all a wish. You go up there, you see how it goes, and she fucking likes you, doesn't like you, and hey, fucking on the next one. So,
well, I'll tell you, I found the other one I found, which I didn't actually mock up, was Dwight Eisenhower. Although maybe I should just say, I don't know, like Donald Trump, like also Edison. No, but like Edison, whatever. But Dwight Eisenhower said, plans are nothing, planning is everything. And I kind of like this one for you, because the book is called Without a Plan, right? The plan is nothing, but the planning is everything. And I think that to be an entrepreneur, everything is part of that planning process. The ability to adapt, the ability to pivot, the ability to, skate where the puck is heading, the ability to roll with the punches, back to Mike Tyson. That's the planning part, Dwight, as opposed to the plan. The plan isn't worth the fucking piece of paper it's written on.
No, that's right. And especially the big business plans. And then, I have a book that's called Without a Plan. And then if you go to my website, jeremydelk.com, there's a one-page plan. So kind of fucking, counterintuitive, but that's my take on it. You have to have a direction. So I basically, to get everyone on board, once the business is at this level, we do a one-page planning exercise where what's our mission vision, what's our, our key performance indicators. And that's what we look at. So we're all under the same sheet of music to be able to go and look off of. And you can model, tweak, and change as you go. But having a conversation, and it changes, but pivoting that's where I think, there's a bit of tongue in cheek on the without a plan component, because sometimes if it was the retail window business, I told you the story about the guy with the pizzeria, I would probably be the best retail window business owner today. Be a fucking shitty job, but it would have been the wrong plan, because it became me being retail to distribution to wholesaling to manufacturing in Europe. I didn't even know what any of those things were, but that taught me value chain within business just by like asking questions, being willing to learn. Learning is my passion. I love learning and curious. And I think that curiosity and naivete and a little bit fucking masochistic is what makes me who I am.
Well, we started out today, and these were my show notes as I showed Jeremy at the beginning. And this is what it looks like now, based on all of these wonderful insights. You can, if you want to hear more of foul-mouthed Jeremy, just go to at Jeremy S. Delk on Instagram. you know, I've always said to people when they say, should I swear? And I always say, if you ever ask that question, the answer is probably not. And it is true, you know, like you can only be, what's the Dr. Seuss thing? You're the best you that you can be. And anyway, everyone else is taken. Find out how to work with Jeremy at jeremydelk.com. Please do me a favor, do yourself a favor, do Jeremy a favor, and go and buy Without a Plan, a memoir of unbound action and failing my way to success. I can tell you one person that I know is on their way as we speak to buy this book. It is none other than Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
And we will be back soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show, and if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.